4-cylinder turbocharged Camaro, which sounds like heresy at first, but I think it can be great. With 280 horsepower and 295 pound-foot of torque, this thing is no slouch. 0 to 60 happens in about 5.5 seconds and is doing low 14-second quarter miles. That level of performance is actually astounding to me because right now I'm driving this car on a bit of a freeway journey to a special destination. While on this journey, the indicated trip computer says I'm averaging 34 miles to the gallon, cruising at 65 miles an hour. I'd like to see an SS try and match that. Just saying. The new Generation 6 Camaro rides on the Alpha platform, which crucially is lighter than the outgoing platform and a bit smaller as well. So the 6th generation Camaro is tidier in proportion and about 200 pounds lighter across the board, coming from the 5th generation car. This package is the lightest 6th generation Camaro you can possibly get. It has the 2.0T engine, a 6-speed manual, and it's pretty minimally optioned except for the crucial stuff that enthusiasts care about. This car has the RS package, which means it has the cool 20-inch wheels, the LED headlights, LED taillights, the side sills, and the sport suspension. Optional, but looks very cool. Crucially, this car has the heavy-duty cooling and braking package, so that means it's completely overcooled with a big radiator. I believe it's a big oil cooler. It has the 4-piston Brembo brakes up front, and I believe it's a 2-piston caliper in the back. So it has tons of brake, tons of cooling, and it means you can thrash this car hard for a long time and not have any issues. It's the perfect amount of package for the engine that it has. The cool thing about the Camaro is that irrespective of which engine option or packages you get, if you order a Camaro with a manual transmission, a limited slip differential is standard equipment. So you can have a 2.0T limited slip differential, the RS package, the heavy-duty cooling with the good brakes, and all the enthusiast packages and options you need for a fun street and possible track day car for less than $30,000 before incentives. It handles fantastic. It's so neutral, so well balanced. It's a great learner car for enthusiasts. It's rear-wheel drive, but it's not going to be snap oversteer like an S2000. It's not going to have terrible understeer like a lot of BMWs, but it's very easy to drive. It's almost like a more powerful version of a BRZ. Something I really appreciate about this car, and I'm sure a lot of enthusiasts would as well, and it's something that GM is doing fantastic with all their performance cars, is that the in-dash screen has a bunch of options and things it can tell you. The big thing, I think, for enthusiasts is that this car, in addition to having a typical water temp gauge, actually has numbers. It tells you real information about this car. So right now I'm looking at coolant temperature, 204 degrees. Oil temperature, 204 degrees. Oil pressure, 44 psi. You have the G meter, and crucially, there's a transmission fluid temp gauge. So it says 167 degrees for my MTF. That's great information to know if you are doing a performance driving event. A lot of cars, they just have a water temp gauge with no number readout, and it's not very accurate. So you don't know, like, am I beating on the car too much? Does it need a cool down lap? With this, it gives you specific numbers. You know exactly what you're looking at. You have no problem deciphering all this information. My only qualm with this is that in some cars I've seen, for example, the Subaru WRX, it has some of this information as well, but it can show you 4 things in one screen. Versus with this, I'm very glad they're giving me all this information, but I wish there was a way to configure the screen to show me multiple values in one go, so I don't have to toggle between the different screens. For performance driving, it'd be really cool to be able to set this up so I can see coolant, oil temperature, oil pressure, and maybe trans temp all in one screen, so I don't have to like push any buttons. It's all just right there. But still, I'm very glad that GM's doing this at all, because a lot of manufacturers just don't. You have no idea what the car is doing until it overheats, and then you're hosed. Power delivery on the 2.0T is RPM. So it softens a bit over that, but it still makes decent power to 6,500. Redline 7,000 if you want to take it there if you need to. This thing with the 6-speed, it really comes alive. I hate to sound like a manual purist, even though I am, but the 6-speed manual transmission really does make this experience so much better because it's a very good transmission. This is the Tremec TR3160, the kind of the medium-duty 6-speed manual transmission. The whole thing is very well done. If you've been in other manual GM products, you will be right at home here. The clutch pedal has a nice weight to it. The shifter feels fantastic. The transmission feels fantastic. Crucially, the pedals and the pedal spacing is perfect for heel-toe downshifts. It's very easy to get in this car and drive it in a very fun manner. And the transmission is a big part of what makes this car so much fun to drive. It really makes working the 2.0T to finding the sweet spot, it really makes it enjoyable. You can hear that engine behind me. I'm really working the 2.0T pretty hard through these back roads. And it does bring up a few small issues. One, it makes some noise when the windows are rolled up because it's cranking up the induction note and plumbing it into the cabin. The car by itself is very, very quiet. If this was my personal car, I'd probably get a custom catback exhaust or just cut a muffler off. It's just a little bit too quiet. And you may think that's just me being a crazy car enthusiast who wants a loud car, but especially if you compare this thing to the V6 Camaro or the SS, those are much more vocal cars even in stock form. And I don't think this engine's making particularly bad sound, it's just it's so quiet, what does come through sounds kind of gravelly and muted. So, my main complaint with this car is that it feels like the flywheel is much too heavy. So what that means is when the car has a very heavy flywheel, it feels reluctant to rev. The revs don't like to rise and fall particularly quickly. Now, I'm sure I know why they did it. A heavy flywheel is a great tool to balance out NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness. A nice heavy flywheel kind of dampens some of the less than pleasurable harmonics that this 2-liter 4-cylinder might produce naturally. Additionally, it does make it very easy for beginner drivers to drive because it makes it very difficult for the engine to stall when you let the clutch out. I'm guessing this has a very nice, like 40-pound dual mass flywheel. Google dual mass flywheels. It basically makes the engine feel smoother. And while that's very nice for daily driving, for an enthusiast, you will notice the fact that the car does feel a bit reluctant to rev, and with a 2-liter engine, it really shouldn't. It should be pretty singy and kind of ready to go, especially because this 2-liter engine is a square design, 86mm bore, 86mm stroke. This thing, with its 7,000 RPM redline, it wants to move. But when you go to heel-toe downshift like I just did, you really have to give it a bootful because with that heavy flywheel, it doesn't want to rev up as fast as you might think it should. So if I was an enthusiast buying one of these cars, when it came time to do a clutch replacement, I would seriously look into a lightened flywheel to make the drivability of the car a lot better when you're doing fun, spirited driving like this. For the day-to-day, it's fine, but when push comes to shove and you're an enthusiast driver, presumably the person watching this video, a lighter flywheel will probably make the car a lot more enjoyable to drive. So, make the exhaust a little bit louder, lighten flywheel. Beyond that, I have no real qualms. I've been heating the bejesus out of this car all day. Coolant, oil temps, oil pressure, trans temp, everything looks great, which is super impressive. Brake pedal still feels fantastic. I did smell a bit of brake pad, which is typical on these sort of back road drives because you're just on and off the brakes at all times. But the brake pedal still feels good, so no boiling fluid. I'm guessing the calipers don't care at this kind of driving. It's a super kind of overbuilt platform that you put the small engine into. It means you can use everything you got as much as you want without issue. I guess the big takeaway from this review is I'm amazed how much value for the enthusiasts that General Motors was able to cram into this car. told any car enthusiast 10 years ago that you could get a factory turbocharged car with 280 horsepower, 295 pound-foot of torque, limited slip differential, big brakes, great cooling, fantastic handling, good fuel economy, all in one package for $29,000, they'd probably think you're on drugs. I'm just saying. This car ticks a lot of boxes for a lot of enthusiasts. It has good power, good fuel economy, great handling, a really fun transmission. Did I mention the great handling? For $29,000 as tested, this thing does manage to be a lot of car for a lot of people. Of course, I should specify that this is really the enthusiast special. General Motors didn't just cram a bunch of useless stuff geared towards millennials in this car, no, but all the things that are in this car are the things that matter. So it has the great cooling system, the big brakes, the turbocharged engine, the good handling, the 6-speed transmission. None of the extra fluff that you don't care about, all the stuff you need to go fast, go have fun, maybe do a track day or two and have a really fun daily driver.